garage is prepped for priming. All I have to do now is mask the car, which actually could take me a day. I got a lot to mask underneath it because it's all been painted underneath. So tomorrow I'll mask it, and either tomorrow evening I'll prime it or the next day. And yeah, it's gonna look awesome silver. I don't really know how straight it is until it's in primer. It's going to have a few little imperfections here and there, and I'll take care of that on top of the primer. It's actually a polyester primer, so it's actually the same as the filler. So the filler will bond perfectly to it. If I have to do any more filling, well, I'll have to do a little bit here and there.
So because I want to get the car all sealed at this stage, I know I still have quite a lot of bodywork to do to get my final straightening done, but I want to get it all sealed in epoxy primer, and then because of the window I need to get my high bolt sander on top of that done. This still allows me to do my major final bodywork and block sanding. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And as you can see, I'm using aerosol to do the inside, but it's not a regular aerosol. It's actually the epoxy primer I'm going to use, but the paint company puts it in aerosols, and it allows me to get into tight areas where I can't really get the spray gun.
Right, the car's all masked and degreased and ready for its epoxy primer. So I've just epoxy primered the dash because I had to do that with one of the aerosol cans, which is pre-mixed and then pressurized. It's the proper epoxy stuff though, because I can't get over that ridge with a paint gun. At least I was right, I couldn't. Anyway, so I'm going to let that set up for a little bit and then give it another coat. But yeah, the old car's pretty much taped off.
So the aerosol allowed me to do quite a thorough job in all the edges I needed to do inside. And I will, there's a window in which you have to get the highball primer on there to seal in the epoxy. Otherwise you have to re-sand down the epoxy and redo that. This is the manufacturer's data sheet on that. It's a PPG, and PPG has some funny rules, but they do have really good quality products. And a lot of people will, you know, sandblast their projects and it's got holes in it everywhere and this, that and the next thing. And then they'll epoxy primer it and then start their bodywork, because that seals in everything. And that is quite a good way to do it. You know, once you've treated the metal and, you know, rust treated it and done what you're going to do, epoxy primer is a very good thing to seal everything in to stop it rusting. But I didn't have to do that because I'm doing it in a nice dry garage, and you know, I had so much to do on this that wasn't necessary. But at this stage, even though I still realize I have quite a lot of work to do, I did want to get it all sealed in the primer, and so that's what I did. You know, different people have different ways for setting up their spray guns and different pressures. I like to basically get my fan as wide as possible, and then I'll just back it down just a fraction. And I do that the same with the volume of the product. I'll wind out the adjustment, and then I'll wind it in just so I can feel it on the trigger, and so that's my maximum flow. And then I'll turn up the pressure, and I'll turn down the pressure as low as I can and still get perfect atomization. So I still want to spray at the lowest pressure I can get away with, within reason. Because if you spray with too high a pressure, and you know, I've seen other people spray and I think, man, that's spraying really high pressure. It bounces a lot of the product off the surfaces and just fills the air up with product. Sometimes when you're doing the clear coat, you tend to do it at a higher pressure. It lays on flatter, but you'll get a lot of clear coat in the air. But yeah, I am no expert, and like you've heard, you know, I don't do this on a regular basis. I don't do it for a living. You know, I do, you know, one car every couple of years or so. So I really don't do it enough to become totally fluent in or knowledgeable in the best way to do things. So you know, I'm not saying take my advice verbatim. You know, it's just how I've found that it seems to work best for me. Anyway, you know, the car's really huge, so I'm doing all the interior and the door jambs and everything first, so that I can basically close all that and then do the outside. Now, filler, you know, Bondo, you know, filler can be done on top of epoxy and other primers. In fact, it keys very well to it. So in general, primer is a thinned out version of filler. Well, there are different products, but in my case, the products are the same. So there's no worry about compatibility of the filler bonding to the primer. I have my lovely Samantha helping me, and it's always a big help if you have somebody helping. I often get Maximilian to help me, and he will spot me, so will Samantha, and someone will hold the hose. Or I often actually hold the hose for Maximilian, because I actually think he sprays better than me. And I may or may not get him to help me actually paint the car. He may actually end up being the one who sprays it. Anyway, as you can see, I'll go around all the edges so that I can close everything to do the final rest of the car. This car's really big, so it's a little bit challenging. And when I talk about adjusting the spray gun, obviously if you're doing edges and inside the door jambs and stuff, you want to turn down the fan so that you're not wasting masses of product. And this will often cause you to actually have to turn down the volume. a lot as well. So when I talked about adjusting the paint gun earlier, that's for doing your main flat body panels, which is where the gun's set at most of the time. It's quite exciting getting to this stage because this pulls all my bodywork together and the hundreds of hours of hard work I've done, and I get to actually start to see what the final product's going to look like. So it's pretty exciting, but you still got to be careful you don't rush this bit, because cleaning your garage and masking is, you know, just as important as everything else. Because if you've got a lot of dirt and contaminants in everything, then that's not really good. And I know I'm only spraying primer right now, but it's still a good policy to almost treat the garage as if you were doing the paint. I mean, obviously not to that degree, because when I actually get around to painting it, I mean, I really try and clean the garage really well at that point. But obviously that important with the primer, or as important. You know, a lot of people spray their primers outside and in the field and etc, and they can get away with it. But in general, you want to try and make, every time you spray anything, you want to try and make the environment as clean as possible. And, you know, masking is equally important. You know, I've done a really nice job underneath the car, and I don't want that covered in overspray, although I'll probably go back over it afterwards and mask off the body and re-black some of it. But I haven't spent the amount of time I needed to mask underneath it. Also, I will actually mask it several times, because it's not good to rely on the first set of masking, you know, in between the bodywork and sanding and priming and painting and re-priming. Plus there's 3 different priming products I use. I use the epoxy primer, and then I do a high build primer on top of that within the allotted time allowed to seal that in. Then I do my repairs, and I'll re-epoxy primer on top of the repairs, because that sticks to absolutely everything. And then when everything's done and it's as straight as I want it to be, I'll probably re-epoxy the whole car again, and then I'll go over it with my 2K primer, which will be my final primer, and I'll give it a good few coats of that. And then there may still be a few spots that I'm not that happy with, which I might block sand, and if I go through, I might re-epoxy those little patches, and then I'll do my final primer on top of that, and then DA and block sand the car finer and finer until I get it almost like glass, but you know, with the right coarseness for the paint to stick to it. And at that point, I'm ready to paint a silver. I'm still a long way off the silver stage at this point, even though it looks like it's coming together fairly well. When you're doing your priming, it allows you to, you know, finesse your technique for when you're going to spray it with paint. Now, I don't always do the primer as if I'm going to paint the car. There's various things you want to do when you're actually painting the car, which you don't really have to do when you're priming. But anyway, you really don't want to, when you're painting a car, you don't want to go up to the edges of the door. You always want to go over the edges. So you never want to, you know, spray a panel like a fender or a door and just paint the door and then move to the next panel, because then you'll build it up far too thick on the edges, and that's not good, because that is a potential for it chipping there down the road. So you always want to go like 6 inches past any seam, and then bring the next panel over that and come in. But also on a car, you always want to try and keep the panel basically wet, so that when you, for instance, if you were going to paint the roof, you would probably start with the outside edge of the roof and work your way in towards the middle, and then you go around the other side of the car and you pick up where you had just last sprayed, because that's the wettest, and you would start spraying from the middle and then pull the panel towards you. So there's quite a big thought process that goes through when you paint a car, and you know, there's different factors as well. You know, how hot a temperature is it? You know, how quick is your paint flashing? How good is your paint booth from the point of view of removing overspray, etc. And you know, you want to also use the correct speed of activator, because you can get slow, medium or fast activating speeds depending on what your temperature is, etc. So anyway, all those factors are equally important. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to the rewarding feeling of seeing your project coming together and starting to look really good. I have the luxury of having a brother-in-law who is really amazing at all these types of things. So often, if I'm in doubt, I will call him and bounce some ideas off of him and see what he thinks. Now, what he does is very, very different from what I do. I mean, he'll take old Bentleys and Bristols, and you know, he's doing $1 million cars, and he's using different products in a different country with different regulations, and so some of the things don't cross over that well, and I do quite a few things differently from how he would do it. But he's also dealing with pristine metal in a lot of cases, and everything's new. I will often research things I'm not 100% sure about, and I'll watch other people's videos who I have quite a lot of respect for in you know, products that they, you know, do, and their restorations and things. I actually quite like Bad Chad. I don't necessarily agree with everything he does, but I mean, how creative that guy is, and how he just gets stuck into everything, you got to really respect that. And you know, he's been doing this for a long time, and I do think a lot of the ways he does things is very, very good and very creative. And you know, sometimes I'll use some of the things he does and do it that way, or I'll do it a combination of what I've been doing and what he does. But he's a great guy. He really does inspire a lot of people to do things like this, which I hope I can do too. And yeah, it's really nice to see his work. Definitely somebody different, and I always like different. You know, I don't know Bad Chad, never spoken to the guy, but you can see that he really thinks outside the box, as I believe I do. And I'm sure a lot of you out there are the same way. When you do things like this, you really have to think on your feet and look at different ways to approach things, especially when you do quite a lot of customization and fabrication.
And tomorrow I'll hit it with the 2K primer, and then I'll start doing my final finesse bodywork. But I feel very satisfied. It's in one colour, no reactions, everything's sealed, and so I'm now heading for a home run.
Now, epoxy primer is kind of strange stuff. It's not like regular primer, and you're not trying to do a high build surface with the epoxy primer. The epoxy primer is kind of a sealer, rust inhibiting, bonding style coat. It has a lot of really good properties on it, and if you're going to spend some decent money, the epoxy primer isn't a bad place to do it. Your finish will actually look quite blotchy after you've epoxy primed it. It doesn't give you a primed looking finish necessarily, and you won't get that until you do your final primer on top of that.
Reference,
then it will come together really nicely.
I used 3/4 of a gallon mixed epoxy, which included doing the dash, the door jambs, and doing a nice thick coat over the whole car and going over quite a few areas twice. So 3/4 gallon, and I used a 1.7 tip on my spray gun. I bought this spray gun especially for doing the epoxy. It was a cheap gun, but it had a lot of good reviews, and it sprayed it on very good. And tomorrow I'm going to spray my slick sand with a gun I purchased, I think, for about 65 bucks, which had great reviews, but I also needed a large tip. So I bought this gun, and I'll use that tomorrow.